I knew intellectually, cognitively, there are other ways to be, but then how do I materially, tangibly, physically make that a reality? I could finally tap into my different parts and be like, hey, it's okay that you made that decision.
Welcome to the Wild and Finally Fucking Free podcast show. This is a space where truth talking gets real, behind the scenes grit of the future humans is laid bare, and we are celebrating and sharing the real raw stories of change agents, neurosparkly people, the witchy wild women, the deep feelers, the unapologetic sensors, the status quo challengers, and the huge-hearted healers and helpers. And guiding you through this wild ride of entrepreneurship and full heart-led contribution to the world is me, your host, Kylie Patchett, aka KP. I am a proudly neurosparkly, natural-born status quo challenger, and I thrive on helping disruptors, rebels and revolutionaries find their voices, amplify their message into the world, and harness their raw potential, alchemize it into unleashing your full potency. Not only will I be sharing the behind the scenes of some of the most amazing, most status quo challenging thought leaders, I'll also be lifting the veil behind my own business. In 2024, I 18x'd my monthly income. Still blows my mind to say that. And this year I am leaning into how joyful and fun it would be to shift from 6 figures to 7 figures in a quantum shifting year. All through leading from my full unapologetic voice, my unleashed potency, and with my big, wildly lit up heart leading the way every single step of the way. So together with my guests, I am going to be sharing the mess and the magic, spilling the tea on the identity shifts behind stepping into thought leadership, breaking the ties that bind us, unlearning old patterns, and reweaving brand new ways of living, loving, learning, and leading. We're here to break boundaries, reimagine what's possible, all while collapsing timelines and leading with joy, love, and our fiercest wild woman selves. This is not just a podcast. It is a rebellion. It is a revolution. It is an invitation to join the Mad Hatters collective movement. And by Mad Hatters, I mean all the colourful, creative, gorgeous, world-changing, out-of-the-box humans out there. If you've ever longed to be wild and finally fucking free, this is your sign to lean in. Let's get started. Hello, beautiful listeners. Before we get into this episode, I want to let you know that there is a trigger warning that comes with this conversation. So Monica is someone who has lived with mental health that's impacted her to the point of attempting suicide a number of times. We discuss this in this episode in very gentle, warm, well-resourced terms. And also I invite you to practice discretion and prioritize your own well-being before listening in. Thank you. Let's get on with the show. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the podcast again. I have a beautiful special guest with me today, Monica Climaco. Hello, Monica. How are you?
Hi, Kylie. I'm well. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited for this chat. We have had this booked in and had to move it for different life things. So I'm so grateful to be sharing space with you today. So for people that don't already know you and your work in the world, how would you like to welcome us to the world of Monica?
Ooh, welcoming to the world of Monica. Okay. While I let that simmer, I just wanted to say first that, yeah, I'm so excited to be here. And I know we've had our reschedules, but I'm always just trusting the timing in things. And I think this is, we're in the right timing. So I guess that's a little bit of an intro to the world of Monica, but more about me. Well, about me's are so difficult, but some key identifiers that I feel strongly about are I am queer, I am an immigrant, I am, to use your word, neurosparkly, I am a somatic practitioner and an artist and an activist. I'm a friend, a daughter, a sister. Yeah, I'll start with those.
Wow,
That's me.
delicious combo. Yay to
Mhm.
neurosparklies in the house, and yay to, identify as that possibly have been either made to feel like heaviness, but can be worn as these sources of
Mhm.
like, that is who I identify as. This is my, I'm proud of who I am and how I, show up in the world and my design and my uniqueness and all of those delicious things. So honoring you in all that. I'm so curious because like on one hand, like the world of somatic and embodiment practices, it feels like it's like on fire at the moment in terms of so many people moving in that direction, which I think is a very good thing. I'm wondering what led you to this work in your own lived experience or lifetime. Like I always want to be like, what is the why here? Like what drove you, what's the golden
Yes.
thread that drew you there?
Ooh, the golden thread. I like that phrasing because I was thinking of it as a thread too. Uh, it does really seem like it's trending right now. And I'll be honest, I don't think I knew about it until maybe early 2023 or
Mhm.
late 2022. And I'm also going to say I feel like not the best, uh, like well-defined spokesperson for this because I also think it's something that's not easily defined.
Yes.
It can't really be put into a whole box. But somatics for me is a field that connects the mind with the body, also the heart and the soul and the spirit, and how all of that connects together and how uh, that's expressed.
Mhm.
That's what's coming up right now and how I feel and sense into it. Me talking is a somatic experience. Me not talking is a somatic experience as
Mm.
well. You know, yeah, it's not just. I think the way that it's popped up has been in contrast or juxtaposition to talk therapy, for
Yes.
example,
Yes.
or life coaching. At least those are the perspectives that I've come across. But they're all they're all related, I think. Talk therapy is a type of a somatic experience, same
Yeah,
with life
exactly.
coaching. So it's really, yeah, it can be very fluid and dynamic. And the way I came into it is that I have been life coaching since 2020.
Hmm.
And actually, it's very interesting that I described it that way because I was coming into somatics from I guess like a turning point in my life coaching where I was like, I don't know if I want to keep just doing the mindset way of things or the talking way of things. And I've always been like a really restless, like movement oriented type of person.
Yeah,
Maybe it's the neuro sparkliness in
I
there.
think so. Think hard.
Yeah. uh, and for myself too, as a personal experience, I was like, I'm doing these affirmations or these like mindset things, and I don't feel like things have shifted
Mm.
the ways that I want it to in my own life. So I wonder what's a different way.
Mm.
I I still do actually. I'm a dancer and I also really enjoy like theater and improv and act. I would not call myself an actor, but it's fun to play improv
Yeah, yeah.
games. And that that was popping up as somatics was getting introduced to me of, oh, you can make the changes like body forward,
Yes.
movement oriented. If the mindset stuff is not clicking, we have other parts of ourselves to
Exactly.
use. So let's tap into that and bring it along for the ride.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love that. I want to come back to something that you said, like, not being like necessarily like a spokesperson for a particular kind of, body of work, for instance.
Yeah, body.
See what I did there?
I did. I love it.
But I think it's really important to acknowledge that when we connect, or when we over connect to the dogma of any type of way of like moving through things, that we can cut ourselves off from our own experience of it, right? Because we're like, oh no, that's not the right way of doing it. And so I feel like the less of an expert on a field and the more of an expert on our own lived experience, and then sharing that in whatever way calls to you, is so much more powerful anyway. And it's so interesting. There's a kind of bit of parallel story, because I used to be a mindset coach. That's how I used to identify. And I was like, there is something missing here, because it feels like my mind is doing these things, but I'm sensing that my body is kind of like not on the same train, And now the way that I work with people, and I love that you say like a different way of entry, because for different people, different things work. But like being able to access the felt sense in our bodies in whatever way that occurs to us, because there's all different ways, I find it super helpful, because my little brain, my little lizard brain, so busy trying to protect me, so busy with all the fears and all the chatter. And I'm like, when I actually can drop out of that, get into my body, anchor with my breath, I'm like, oh, all of that is just like surface crap on the ocean. And now I'm down in the ocean, like in the actual feeling. And yeah, I just look back at how I used to try and coach just through the mind. And I'd be like, God, it's like trying to navigate the ocean with one oar type of thing. Like you've only got one little implement to, try and access this entire ocean. Actually a weird analogy, but anyway, it works.
I think I understand. Yeah.
What started to change for you? Like when you started connecting, okay, I can access this through the body, not necessarily just through the mind. And you've got this other kind of part in your toolbox. What started like letting go in your own life? Like what was that experience like when you first were like, oh, my eyes are open?
What started letting go? Oh my gosh. That's a really big question. And I don't know if I can answer it fully. Mm, I do think a big difference is let's see. Well, very physically, I no longer clench my teeth. I used to just have all this clenchedness here, tension here in the jaws. And I remember a dentist appointment back in 2021 or 2022 or something. And the dentist was like, do you grind your teeth? And I said, I don't think so. And the dentist was like, I see signs of it. You need to work on. This dentist was very no nonsense, not judgmental, but just like, I'm just going to tell you how. Yeah. And so you got to manage your stress. I'm like, oh, okay. As if I wasn't already aware of my stress levels.
Yeah, I know, right?
And
that's just one symptom of the stress person.
Right. and self-conscious about whether or not I'm managing it well. But that's one thing. And then I guess more metaphysically, I'm still working on it, but I have been really enjoying being a student of the concept of like, what would it look like? What would it mean? What would it feel and be like to just be honest? And even if it means I'm not liked, or I make a mistake, or I do something quote unquote bad, and that feels like a big shift, because I used to be such a perfectionist and such a people pleaser / I heard this term a couple weeks ago, a self-abandoner. And so it feels now, like, I'm not abandoning myself, even when I'm maybe not my best, even when I'm probably like a grump or really not great to be around, really cranky or something.
Mm.
But yeah, it's sitting with I can still be a worthy human being even when I'm a little, I don't want to use a bad word, but
No. Use a bad word. I mean, there's fuck in the title. Like, you can swear here.
I guess I didn't know which one to choose. So
oh, well, whatever you want. I don't really care.
Thank you. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
As you're talking, like, I'm like, okay, I have tension in my jaw, definitely. I feel like one of the things that, like, my physical equivalent of that kind of tension is, and it's kind of the flip side. So I don't necessarily get a buildup of this when I'm out of balance, but when I'm in balance, my sense of the structure of my body, and I have a joint condition as well. So there's kind of like something that definitely happens, but my sense of, like, I don't want to use the word rightness because that makes it kind of sound very binary, but my feeling of resourcing is always present to me in my hips. So if my hips feel stable and strong, which is where the joint condition plays out most of the time, but also like fluid and able to respond. And there's a certain feeling I get when I'm walking that's like, oh yeah, that's that. And it's so funny because I haven't actually had that for quite some time. I didn't realize that I hadn't until yesterday when I was like, oh, feeling really fluid, like, like strong fluid. Because for me, I'm over flexible. So strength is one of the things that I source, whereas it might be different for different bodies. But the other thing that I noticed too, as you're talking, I'm like, that, like, the felt sense of being free from stickiness in your mind that happens when your body and your mind are connected. And I feel like I spent so many decades of my life living from the chin up as a protective mechanism. And I feel like as you're talking, like, the self-abandonment, it's so easy to self-abandon when you're in your head because you are in your conditioning by definition. That's like your brain is there to protect you from the things that you think are going to kill you. And unfortunately, a lot of us have been conditioned that, if you don't people please, if you don't, fawn or whatever, fill in the bullshit, that we will not be safe. Whereas then if you're anchoring back into your body, you're like, oh, hang on a minute. Here's the truth here. And I can actually feel that somatic response to me abandoning or saying yes to something I know I shouldn't or whatever. And I feel like there's nowhere to hide when you're living through your body. Whereas up here, there's all sorts of shit that you're hiding from, but also you're listening to all sorts of, yeah. So I feel like that, like, isn't that such a juicy, it's so, and it also feels like anarchy. Like, as you're talking, the word that it's like anarchy, right? Like, it's saying no to all the systems of oppression that have told us that our being in the world and our lack of power or whatever is the way to move, that it's like all externally dictated. And when you start looking at this body, it's like, I have an internal guidance system here and you're not going to like it. And I just think, what a joy that people, like, I just turned 50. What a joy that people in many, many, much younger stages of their lives are coming into this work. Because I just feel like you've got the tools to understand when you're self-abandoning, like, a good long time before I learned. Like, props to you. And the fact that this is being talked about in younger generations just makes my heart just so, like, I know in lots of ways the world is like crumbling a little bit in countries, but there is this real knowing and wisdom that younger people are leaning into, in my experience, at least, a lot more. Certainly my daughters are not playing out the same stories that I was given at their age. So yeah,
beautiful.
It feels really, it just warms my heart when I have conversations with people that,
Yeah.
and I don't want to make age a thing because I don't think it really is, but what I mean is much younger in your development, and then what
Mm,
that means for the, you know, the trajectory of where you will end up being able to move
right.
into. Because
Yeah.
I don't know, like if living like this moves you a percentage more towards your full self each year,
Hmm.
like, wow, that's
Yeah.
really cool.
I mean, I think it is important to also, for me anyway, to know that um while age doesn't equate to like maturity or
No,
where people should be in their development, um time is a, is a unit of measurement that has value. How we define that value and how much value we place on it, it can be up to each person. But I think it is important to uh, connect the dots, right? Like, oh, why are all of these shifts in spirituality or mindset or mental health discussions, happening now at the same time that the world is crumbling and on fire? So
exactly.
and there's got to be a connection. So yeah, that's just something I'm thinking about from what you said. And it's it's funny too for me to hear that from you, like you having just turned 50, um, and how you feel with people who are younger than you. I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm late in my development when
No,
I'm
honey.
talking to people who are. So it's just like, oh, we are all gonna have this type of experience, no matter what age
No.
we
And
are. Yeah.
yeah, I do feel like there is so much truth in what you're just saying, is like as the systems are crumbling, there's also an uprising, and there's a switch in. I was actually just listening to a human design lecture, and they're talking about like the change that we go through in 2027, where it's
Mm.
changing, the consciousness is changing to the cross of the phoenix, which is really cool because I work with the phoenix
Mm.
archetype a lot. Just about this year's.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, okay, cool. So maybe we're just all on time. Like maybe this is
Yes.
all happening.
Yes, right. Exactly like what I was saying
Yeah,
earlier. It's just we're just trusting the timing. Things are gonna happen
exactly.
as and when they need to happen. I also resonate with the Phoenix, so that's a
Yeah.
nice little synchronicity there. I'm thinking about how you said you live up in your head a lot, and I'm resonating with that too, and I think that is I mean, it's a tool of the systems that be and all of that, right? And what popped into my head listening to you say that is forgiveness, because I do think that's a big piece of my journey and also how I hold space for other people in theirs. It doesn't support me to beat myself up for living in my
Yeah,
head
exactly.
for however long I did that, right? Um, it was just doing what it thought was necessary and best at the time. And it got me through to who I am and how I am here today. So uh, I don't want to I don't want to fight with it for just doing what it needed to do to survive. And I think that's like part of what I want to share as a somatic practitioner with folks in whatever spaces I'm in. It's like, the, how can you forgive the parts of you that maybe you look back now? It's like, oh, that's not the choice that I would have made, but it seemed like the choice at the time. And how can you just think it to get you to the point where, oh, I do have other choices now. This is one access point, and then I have this arm and, other access points in the rest of my body. And also doesn't mean we never check in with our minds
Oh God,
ever
no.
again, right? Like, yeah, it still has wisdom. Even the people pleasing parts of us still have some wisdom that they can share too.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah,
As you were
I know.
talking,
Still can need to
I'm
see that.
reminded, sorry, Monica, I didn't mean to
No,
stop. Um, as you're talking, I'm reminded of the wisdom that I really feel like such a settling in myself when I lean into like the internal family systems kind of concept of like, there's no bad
mm,
blood. Like the part of me that decided to live from my chin up was a protective mechanism. It was for my highest good at the time in
mm-hmm,
the way that I knew how. But I love that you've brought self-forgiveness to the table because I do feel like I was having a conversation with someone about trauma and trauma release and the concept of like forgiving others around trauma and everything. And I
mm,
just said to her, I'm going to be really honest and say that my lived experience around trauma is that the person I was most resistant to forgiving is myself. Like that, yes, that there was, there's the things that happened or the, rightness or wrongness or whatever you want to assign about that. But actually, it was when I was able to lean into and dissolve the parts of me that wanted to keep my younger self, wrong or at fault for things that,
mm.
uh, there was some magical alchemy that happens when you can release the part of you that wants you to be different, because it's like it's in the past anyway. You're never going to win that battle, you know.
Mm.
So I don't know, like it just feels like surrender to me of like what is, but also then like knowing when those protections do become something that I'm not willing to do to myself anymore, or not willing to,
Right.
and then trying different things on for size. Because I feel like
Yes.
when something gets this kind of moment in the sun, like somatics feels like, I feel
Mhm.
like sometimes there's, I don't know whether you'd agree with this, but some sort of like, oh, if I don't like dancing or if I don't like wiggling my hips around, then somatics is not for me. So I'm wondering like if there were things that you notice about kind of preconceived notions around somatics, would there be anything that like calls to mind is like, let's bust some myths here. Like let's prove some, at least from your perspective about,
Yes. Yes, yes. So I'll reiterate again that um it's such a wide field actually. I think
Mhm.
more than what people notice and even more than what I can speak to because you mentioned dance, you mentioned movement and playing your hips and I do think those are the like sexy, trendy
Yeah, they're like the
versions of
stereotype. Yeah.
of somatics that's um being circulated around. But it's not just that. And so if that form of somatics isn't for you, there are other forms. Which like a really simple one can literally just be holding your own hand. Um, it can be humming.
Yeah.
It can be writing with your non-dominant hand. There's
Mhm.
so many forms. So I guess that's like the biggest myth I can
Yeah. Yeah.
bust about it is it's much wider than what's presented online. And then I think you present this like beautiful moment for me to also share that somatics is actually so much about choice and
Mhm.
autonomy and sovereignty and your inner power like within and for yourself. And so if wiggling your hips doesn't work for you, don't do it. You
Yeah,
always
exactly.
have the choice. And actually that is like a somatic healing moment within itself to choose this form is not for me. But let me go try other things on for size. And I really like that like way of phrasing. It's like, oh, it is. It's like putting on a shirt and you realize, oh, this doesn't fit. It doesn't feel
Exactly.
good. So
Yeah.
it's not the only shirt out there. You can go try another one on.
I love that. I just, as you're talking about like I don't know, like I've got the same sort of like ridiculous stereotype in my head about when you say the word healer, right? Like not
Mm-hmm.
so much now, but particularly when the kind of more witchy or woo element of the internet came out of the closet.
Uh-huh.
It was this ridiculous, like stereotypical, like everybody had purple websites and everybody had flowing clothes and everybody was a particular way. And like
Right.
with my work with my clients, I'm constantly saying, like, you can do the same sort of work in the world with a completely different flavor, genius zone, way of accessing it. And just because you think that something looks a particular way, I just feel like there's sometimes too much kind of posturing or something that happens on the internet. And it's like,
Mm.
can we stop with like what is sexy or what is stereotypical or what is flowy or what is whatever, and actually just be real about the entire gamut of things? Because I feel like we could
Yeah.
offer the medicine of so many different modalities to people if they could see themselves more in the ways
Yes.
that it's talked about. Like just saying you have a choice and this is actually a chance to reclaim sovereignty and reclaim that inner power. I'm like, okay, now instead of the word somatic, which may or may not mean anything in particular or a stereotype, now I'm like, oh, well, fuck, I'm all about sovereignty. So let's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, what don't I know about this? So I love
Mhm.
that as an entry point. Can you talk more about that? So you just use the word like, of the words internal
Mhm.
power, which I love the strength of because it feels very grounded and anchored for me, which that's
Mhm.
the juice for me. But like, what do you mean by that? And what is the, like, before people enter this work or know of all of the different access points,
Yeah.
can you wrap language around where their power perhaps might have been or might be stuck or cut away from them? Or I'm not sure if I'm using the right language.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, what a beautiful question. Can I wrap language around where I think other people's power may have been placed if it was not in them? Mm, okay. I'm gonna name that coming uh into this conversation with you, I was all sorts of worried because uh it's interesting because when I was younger, I always thought I was going to be a writer of some sort. And now I'm like, I don't know how to word things. And,
Ah,
and
interesting.
to, mhm,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
to speak to your question or even to speak to my own experience with somatics or the different things that have happened to me in life, I'm like, I can't put words to this. I wish I could upload a feeling into you so
Feeling,
that
yeah.
you get me. Um,
Can you talk to us
but
in like sense describing
yeah,
rather, because
yes,
words are just one way, right? So I know
right.
that words are still
I'm
what you're describing with, but is that easier?
I'm just gonna try my best. I just
Yeah,
needed
go
to
for it.
name that, and I'm gonna try my best. Um, and maybe the best is actually, yeah, I'll bring my own story into it. In that, when I didn't feel like I had
Mm.
access to my own power within me, because I think it's not that it's mm, how do I put this? Oh my goodness. Okay. I don't think it's ever really taken from us.
Yes.
It's I think everyone has their power
Mhm.
always. It's maybe more a matter of, is somebody else disconnecting you from it, including yourself because of
Yes.
something else, or yeah, limiting the access, right?
Mm.
And we, in at least in the societies that I know or that I live in currently, we get conditioned in various ways that success looks like this, a good person looks like this, da 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 da. And when we subscribe to those isms or
Yeah.
um, supremacies and think, oh, that's the only way, um, we going back to choice, right? Our choice is lacking,
Yeah.
or our choices are taken away because we're told it's just this and nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is one way I can try to speak to, like, where did the power go? It went to one, the forces that did disconnect you from your own source. And when you keep subscribing to that, then it keeps living in the hands of that. Oh my gosh. I don't know if any of that makes sense.
I think, like, let me add, try and wrap up the sense that I'm getting from you in words, and you can tell me whether this feels right or not. What I'm hearing is the power is always within us, but sometimes the conditioning might kind of make some sort of cage around it, or at least the perception of a cage around it, so that we can't unfurl it or use it or have agency over it, or at least think that we can't because of that external. And so I guess it kind of feels to me like the power over versus power from within paradigm shift that we're all in the middle of. And then I guess when that happens, because it's truth for so long, or it can seem like truth for so long, the conditioning is so ingrained in societies and families and, like, you know, since the Industrial Revolution. And so I guess when it happens for so long and we can get so so much weight to the story of we don't have power, or we don't have control, or we don't have choice. I mean, that's when, like, I'm just thinking back to my own life. Any time that I've felt powerless, which is the exact opposite of my highest value, which is freedom, I have felt depressed. Like, I've had very low mental health periods where I have just felt like there is nothing I can do that's in my control. And then, you know, that motivation goes down, and it's a very deep, dark pathway in my lived experience to be on. So I feel like there's, I don't know, does that feel true to you, the way that I describe?
Yeah, absolutely. I think similarly for me, when I thought, oh, I can only be this one way, and that's the only right way to be. Otherwise, I failed, or whatever. Yeah, whatever words have you. I was also really depressed, and, you know, and but I also, there were all these truths that were bubbling up, and some multiple things telling me, like, there are other ways to be. There are other ways you can be that will actually feel more freeing to you and more in your power for you. But you have to be brave enough to live it, and be okay with it not aligning with what society tells you is the right thing. And that clash was so strong for a long time, and actually very painful, to the point where I was like, I don't think I can live like this anymore. That, I don't think I can carry all of this on top of the pressures, the external pressures. So I did, I mean, multiple times, but I've attempted suicide, and thankfully that's, like, my biggest failure that I am proud of, because
Celebrating. We're glad you're still here with us.
Yes, me too. It's like, oh, that failure was actually a success. It was just, and I think that's my biggest thing that I had to learn to forgive myself for. Suicide is such a, like, I think the narrative is changing more now. But for a long time, the dominant stories around it are that, like, oh, it's a sin. I grew up Catholic. It's a sin if you do that. It's, you know, against God, and you're gonna hurt so many people if you choose that path. And it's like, oh my gosh, like, how could I even imagine it or fathom it or go to the point of trying to carry it out? And so much so that I I didn't really talk about it. I didn't even really talk about it in therapy. And that should be the place where like I could. And so somatics, I think. I didn't put this together until just now, but I think finding a different way, those different access points, I knew intellectually, cognitively, there are other ways to be, but then how do I materially, tangibly, physically make that a reality? I could finally tap into my different parts and be like, hey, it's okay that you made that decision. I'm glad you're still here. I'm glad you're still with us. And for anyone, you know, thinking you're contemplating about that, there are other choices, but also it's not wrong for you to consider that. Please don't go through with it. But there's so many painful things that happen to us in this world, in this age. It's valid to look at an option that makes that pain go away,
Like
yeah.
you're talking, I'm reminded of, it's a Jim Carrey quote about depression. And I think for people that have never been in a state where they don't feel that there's other choices around being here or not being here, I think it's really easy to be quite like judgmental or like assign a rightness or a wrongness to that feeling. And I think I worked for a few years in mental health recovery, and I think there's so much misunderstanding about mental health concerns. And the Jim Carrey quote goes something like, depression is just your soul asking for deep rest. So deep pressed, like that's a kind of, and
Yeah.
the need to rest comes when, at least in this is, my understanding, my lens, my perspective, comes from when we are trying to live in a particular way that is so painful to the root of who we are, that we are forced into a state of requiring deep rest. And sometimes that feels like I need to not be here at all. That's the only thing that is going to give me the rest. And I think that, I feel like it's important to have conversations where people who've never experienced this understand that it's not like I'm choosing not to be here. That is actually not, at least not in my understanding and perspective, and definitely with relatives that have very tricky mental health. I just feel like there's a call to taking off the lens of judgment, if that's what's happening for anyone listening, and to truly listen to what you're feeling and the sensations that you're sharing, rather than the external construct of whether that's a right or a wrong choice. Because I think that's a dangerous thing.
Yeah.
That's what stops people talking. That's what stops people asking for help, is that lens of like rightness or wrongness, good or evil, that type of thing.
Yes.
Yeah. And I just feel like with somatic sensing, I don't know, I feel like there's a gateway between something that's coming to me that wants to be like, I'm seeing this picture of like you said from the very beginning about like mind, body, soul, heart, etc. And it's like when one or two of them are completely out on the out the reservation because they've been completely disowned, which is often the soul part of us that wants and needs completely different ways of moving through the world. Like that lack of alignment is it's not sustainable for us as humans.
No.
Then that somatic ability to kind of access things differently, because I do think talk therapy, it definitely has its place. I've got a lot of clients that are psychologists, like more power to them. And also the majority of those clients will say the way that we've been taught through the lens of CBT being the only option is such a limited lens. And so they play with all sorts of things inside their therapy room, but they're not allowed to talk about it outside because of regulations. And I'm like, this is so fucked when we all know that this is, it's only
Yeah.
part of the puzzle. And yes, it can be helpful. And also there's other layers of access points,
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Mm.
Sorry, I kind of just went off on my own little journey then.
No, I
It's my
love that. Thank
neurosparkly
you.
brain.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing. I think I am I'm definitely sitting with how I like that picture of, our different parts, and anytime one is a bit too far from because I also don't think alignment is like this rigid line and it has to be perfectly in place. I kind of there's more flexibility to alignment I than I don't know, other people might ascribe to it, but it's it's also that, do those parts feel like they're welcome and invited to be part of the party or whatever, right? When you were talking about Jim Carrey and depression, I felt that about the deep rest. And it's also, you were starting to allude to it, but it's also when certain parts of us want to be experienced and want to be expressed. I think something I saw the other day was like depression. The opposite of depression isn't happiness; it's expression or something like that. And I'm like, yes, that is entirely it. And the expression sometimes can be just as simple as say, I am depressed. And
Yeah,
I've
exactly.
always felt like if I can name that and we can talk about it and not be weird about it or dismissive, that brings a lightness already. And I know it's heavy to keep bringing it back, but this is so, I think, important to my like personal mission in life. But I think with suicide or any form of self-harm, we are not curious enough about it. We could stand to ask a little bit more, and it's hard to hold that. So we need different resources and different supports to be able to hold ourselves in that space and conversation. But I think the more that we bring it up and talk about it and unpack like why, how could that be a viable option?
Yes.
Which is ironic because viable life.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yeah, I know. There's a whole
yeah. Yes.
thread of that.
It can't just be like it's all in that individual's head. If so many people have attempted it, think about it, consider it, it's bigger than an individual, right? So
100%.
yeah.
I think the naming thing feels very powerful to me. And you did it in a micro way just before by saying, like, I asked a big question and you're like, I'm not really sure that I've got the words to like wrap around this, right? And I feel like there's so much power in just, and I'm always talking about voice and visibility activation. Like I had an experience in a coaching circle just a few weeks ago in my mastermind group where I actually became like, I felt really, the language I used?
Activated?
I think I used the word triggered, but it was something where we were having a conversation and I always welcome, like the way that I open circles in new spaces is every single part of you, every single version of you, every single feeling, every single emotion is welcome here. There's no need to put those parts over there on a reservation and say they're not palatable enough to be shown in the light of day, because I think that is also self-abandonment, and I don't I don't desire my spaces to feel like that. And so I won't do it to myself either. So when I'm feeling something, I don't just continue on with this like mask of like, oh, I'm just going. I actually said, and it was such a powerful moment where I was like, oh my God, just those few words allowed me to release the need to keep going and be like some sort of, battery powered human, like some
Yeah.
sort of
Mhm,
robot. And I actually
mhm,
just went, I think I said something like, that's really, really hard for me to hear right now. And I'm feeling quite activated about it. That's what I said.
mm.
But I also want you to know that you've been heard, but I'll need space to kind of process how I want to respond. And it was
Yeah.
such simple, like it seems so simple, but I just feel like the voicing thing is something that we could use so much more just to externalize something,
Mhm.
and just make it okay. Like I just feel like there's too much performing. And if we're
Oh,
always performing, that means you're self-censoring, which is just more of the oppressive power externally. It's just that you're doing it in a part of yourself rather than someone else doing it to you. Um,
right.
yeah, I just feel like, I don't know, there's an invitation to wholeness, right? Like I am a human and I'm having an experience of being activated. Just because I'm a coach doesn't mean I don't have human emotions. And that's
Yes.
fuck off with all the bloody marketing material that says I'm this perfect, shiny human. Like, yeah, doesn't interest me at all. Anyway, I think we're
I
becoming wiser though. I hope that we're becoming wiser.
yes, I do think so. I hope so. And I mean, I think I'm having more of these types of conversations with other people too. So that's just giving me a lot of hope. But I love that you said that and that you gave yourself that space and that moment. And I think it it probably well, I don't know. I don't want to ascribe meaning to it, but it it's you gave yourself that gift, and I think similarly for me, I spent many years. Let me go at this another way.
Yeah, yeah.
If, say, prior to 2018, me was
Mhm.
watching me do this interview now, he would probably be freaking out. Like she'd be like, what is she doing? She
Yep.
sounds like she doesn't have it all figured out. Her pauses are too long. Oh my God, she said, I don't know, or I
Yep.
don't have an answer to. What is she doing? And I'm like, bless her, love her. We hold her dearly, but
Mhm.
it's, I am human. And I think that is one of the best things I could have shifted too accepting about myself. I'm not a machine. And I don't ever want to feel robotic or like on autopilot ever again. It means
Yeah.
I wasn't living life as fully and wholly as like
Mm.
you mentioned. And I want, the full spectrum, the full range of this human experience, including the not so great parts, right?
Yes.
Including saying, "Oh, I don't know. I can't answer
Yeah,
that
exactly.
question,"
I don't, yeah.
including stuttering, right?
Yeah.
Um, it makes the sweeter parts all that like
Yeah.
lovelier and more wonderful. And I want that for other people too. You were speaking earlier about how um, when we spend so long, or when people spend so long only thinking, "Oh, this is only one way," and they get um, yeah, they get just into that groove. And then at some point, something shakes them out of that groove.
Yeah.
It's very disorienting and very scary to be like, I don't know what this is.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's like to be human, I guess, or a full spectrum human.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I think
Outside the
that's what
box.
outside the box,
Mhm.
outside of that groove that we were placed in, outside of the matrix.
Yeah.
And I think that's where work like yours or work like mine uh is important. And uh I would I don't know that I would call myself an expert, but it's like, oh, I got myself with the support of other people out of the discomfort of what it was like to get shaken out of that groove.
Yes.
Um when other people are off that track, let me also help them to
Yeah.
feel more comfortable with it.
This
Yeah.
is such a beautiful example of, like, I often talk about the golden thread that pulls us to our legacy work. And do often have a sense of, and this is not new news to anyone, but I have this sense of the challenges or the contrast to being wholly human is often, what we alchemize for ourselves over the fullness of time and what we invite other people into. And I just feel like when we are sharing our human experience that brings us to our work in the world, like there is literally hundreds of other somatic based coaches, but there's not anyone with the same lived experience and personal perspective. And this is why, part of me would love a little bit more regulation in so many ways in like coaching, but there's also a part of me that's like, the gold does not come from paper. It comes from the lived experience with some tools or some access points or whatever over the top of it. Absolutely. That's helpful. But to me, it's the soul of you that's gone through this that is the most magnetic to the people that you're meant to be working with and serving, because your story will resonate. And that's the magic. And I think when we're not, I don't want to say brave enough, because that almost sounds like I'm wronging people at the stage, but when we can find the balance in our own journey and when there's no huge emotional charge so that we can share the depth of our humanness, if it's something big like what you've just shared, it's just such a beautiful, and again, I don't want to use the word permission because I hate that word, but it opens the door, opens a field of possibilities for other people listening to go, okay, I actually see myself in this story, or I see myself in parts of this, and I have this sense in my body that there's something that's drawing me towards this person who does this work. And I think that is where I do rail against the stereotype of all sorts of, like the stereotype coach or the stereotype somatic, the stereotype life coach, I sometimes I think I should start a YouTube channel that's like shit that somatic coaches say, shit that life coaches say. I'm sure it's been done before. I'm sure that's not a new idea, but I just feel like when we start thinking and talking like the same people in the same genius zone, it's like, stop doing that. It's your differences and your uniqueness that's gold. It's not the sameness.
Right.
So yeah, I want to honor you for sharing the depth of your story, because it's such a precious thing to be on the receiving end. And also I understand too, from when I do it myself, that there's catharsis in speaking it out loud for you as well, right? There's some magical, something, I don't even know what you call it, but there's, that, I don't know. I don't want to say it makes it worthwhile because I don't want to assign that balance to it, but
I get you.
yeah.
I think there's just something to it, being seen.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it helps. Yeah.
What a delicious conversation. Thanks so much for sharing your light with us. And I just love so much sharing space with humans and learning from them and different stories and everything. So thank you. I want to ask though, where can we find you and your deliciousness in the world? So if someone wants to come and connect and learn more.
Oh my goodness. Okay, this is in the interest of naming things, this is like bringing up my edges with visibility, but I am on Instagram at Monica_C. It's Monica with 3 M's. I'm also actually on YouTube as well now. I don't think that was true when we first connected. Yes, and on YouTube, I go by like some of my favorite nicknames, so which is Momo Monster Munchkin. I'll have to type that out to you so I can be read and written out. But that is where I can be found, and typically that's how like I usually can get connected with people who then, if they want to work together, there's that. I also want to give a shout out to a somatic school that I'm a part of called, I I help do operations there, and I'm
Okay.
also a rotating facilitator there.
Mhm.
So that's another way people can find me. It's called Somatics for the People.
Oh, what a cool
Yeah.
name.
Yeah. And thank you. Oh my gosh. I will
Pleasure.
tell you, when I got your message, I was like, is this really for me? I don't know if that's right. And I heard, your intro, like the big movers and shakers in this. Oh, I don't think I'm big at all. And I really was getting all twisted in my head about, like, am I going to have something to say that's going to different or unique or whatever? And I life works in really funny ways. The universe like reminded, like replayed something back to me that I had said to somebody else. It was a similar kind of moment, a situation where they're like, but everybody's doing this work already. Like, I don't want to add to the noise, or it's oversaturated, da da da. And I think
Yeah.
I had said to them, like, yeah, but no one's doing it the way that you're gonna do it. So I was like,
Exactly.
okay, it's gonna be fine. And if I just remember that my main purpose in life is to be as true to myself as possible, like in any given moment, including stuttering and not knowing how to
Yeah,
answer your
God.
questions. I think
Human.
that, yeah, exactly. If I allow myself to be human, hopefully, yeah, like someone else can feel that they can just be their human
Yeah,
selves too.
exactly. I should have actually opened that. I've had forgotten how we were connected because I'm like, I just feel like I've always known you. I was because I put a thing out on Instagram and said, I would love more disruptors, rebels, revolutionaries on the podcast. And it's so funny because the people I've connected with, because other people shared, who they were, because you were like elected or like judged, like put in front. And it's just such a beautiful thing because so often we don't see ourselves the way that other people see us. So yay to actually being honored and stepping into it for you. So what a
Thank
delicious
you.
conversation. Thank you so
Thank
much for sharing your heart with us.
you so much for receiving it.
So good. Have a beautiful day.
You too, Kyrie.
There you go, beautiful one. Another delicious, juicy, truth-talking episode with a disruptor, rebel, or revolutionary sharing the identity shifts and the mess and the magic of leading right on the edge of your expansion and going first as a visionary leader, as a woman creating a business, and inviting people to completely new ways of learning, living, loving, and leading. It is not lost on me that you have invested your time and your energy in listening to the show. I am so grateful for your beautiful heart, for the work that you do in the world. And I know that if you're here, you are more than likely one of what I call the Mad Hatters. So the quirky, colourful, creative, out of the box, often neurosparkly, paradigm shifters and thought leaders. So I'm so grateful that you're here. If you loved this episode, which I'm sure you did, please do me a favor and share it with someone else who needs to understand that their quirkiness and their full unapologetic self-expression is more than enough, and in fact is the secret sauce to growing a wildly successful, abundant, nourishing, sustainable business. So here is to us, the Mad Hatters, the crazy out-of-the-box people saying no to old paradigms and inviting into the new. And if you'd love to go the extra mile, please make sure that you subscribe on the platform that you're on so you never miss an episode. And hey, it would be sweet, sweet, sweet if you would leave us a 5-star review. It means the world to us and it helps us get this truth talk and this magic and this power out to even more Mad Hatters. So have a beautiful day and I will speak with you next week.